Hello everyone, Darth Zenobia here, giving a shout out to the Max Panther. He gave me an idea for this video, and it was a request for his, and I actually finally came up with an idea on how to do this video, what to talk about. The thing I'm going to talk about in this video, this doesn't just apply to Star Wars, but I'm mostly going to talk about Star Wars because Star Wars is the topic of this video. Hipsters have ruined Star Wars. My friend in the background, if you want to tell me what a hipster is.
It's not necessarily about what you can classify as a hipster. They deny the classification in of itself. But the question is, what kind of impact have they had on mainstream media culture in America? That is the concern.
What he said. Essentially, this applies to the Star Wars franchise. If a lot of you guys can remember, a lot of you can relate. Before the buyout of Disney, shortly before the buyout, it was not acceptable, really, socially, to be a fan of Star Wars because of the prequels. If I were to read something like this out in the open, people was like, "Why are you reading Star Wars? Star Wars is dead." I remember people telling me that when I was reading, some Star Wars books at work too, even that Star Wars was dead. And we were basically an outcast, honestly. Nerd culture in general, it haven't been okay to be a nerd. And now that the mainstream hipsters basically have hijacked this culture, we're an outcast of the freaking franchise and the culture that we've created. I mean, it sickens me that a bunch of hipsters who never cared about this franchise before are now caring about it because there's hype for it now and for new movies.
Something of a social game. Something that they can hijack.
It's like even the comics industry has been ruined by this fucking culture. It makes me really angry that everything that is great is ruined by fucking this culture. It's bullshit. We built this culture. We're the reason, it actually existed for as long as it has. Hell, Star Wars fans like ourselves, that's part of the nerd culture, like Star Trek. We invested much more money than any other fan would. And don't tell me, if you bought every single version of every single Star Wars movie, that automatically makes you a hardcore fan. No! What makes you a hardcore fan is if you actually picked up a fucking book or in a comic and collect the action figures too, if you want to go that far, and collect everything relating to Star Wars. Not just stuff relating to the movies. They have it backwards. It may sound like I'm gatekeeping here, but I think, thinking about it, maybe Matt Wilkins should have not have used that term. Because Star Wars is mainstream again, thanks to Disney and I was going to say Disney because Lucasfilm was not even in control. If anything, what's happening with Rogue One says anything about that. Hipster culture kills creativity. Hipster culture doesn't like things being diverse.
In the sense that it doesn't like diversity that clashes with its idea of diversity.
Yes.
Only of its notion of diversity, only its narrative, its general notion of diversity. Anything outside of that, anything that it flies in the face of that, or conflicts with that, they are utterly against.
What my friend said. It's really sad because Star Wars used to be a franchise that was respected. And don't give me that crap, oh, the prequels ruined Star Wars because, oh my god, Jar Jar, politics, even though that stuff that you hate about the prequels, for those of you who are watching this who hate the prequels, was a small percentage. And it's what really pisses me off about these hipsters, some of these people who claim to be fans of Star Wars, or those original trilogy elitists who refuse to acknowledge any of the problems that possibly exist in the prequels exist in the originals. You want to talk about bad acting? The originals have it too. You want to talk about, bad dialogue? The original has those too. And the thing about that, in the Lucas era of Star Wars, regardless how bad some of the ideas could be from the expanded universe, at least the authors and the artists, these comics and novels, they actually try to come up with something new and try to make the Star Wars universe stay fresh. Now, with the current direction, you're lucky to even get a Star Wars novel that's halfway decent, or a comic. Darth Vader and the main Star Wars series being a continuity mess, well, that's what Jeremy at Stupid Jade Stop Productions said, because he's actually read it. I have no interest in reading that crap. Aftermath contradicting the prequels. I mean, people claiming that the original expanded universe had contradictions when the new canon, and hasn't even been that long, contradicts itself and the movies a lot more than the original EU did. Barely anyone is actually tying things together. It's just, what is the point of reading the new canon when most of it doesn't have any connections with each other? It doesn't feel organic. And that's one thing these hipsters don't appreciate. Like, I'm going to use an example. I'll review this later. This is an example of how organic the expanded universe is. This connects, Shadowhunter, Cloak of Deception, and Episode 1. It connects these all together. And there's another novel I can use an example. Dark Plagueis is a good example of how the expanded universe is organic. The original. Or I could use, New Jedi Order as another example of how organic the expanded universe is, because it connects itself with previous novels in the Bantam era and the children novels, Junior Jedi Knights and Young Jedi Knights. Reading the Star Wars expanded universe meant something. Everything feels connected in some way, regardless on how big or small it may be. There are some occasions where there aren't really much connections, but that was the exception and not the norm. For us to simply accept Star Wars as it is now, to me, is an insult. The same people that basically mocked us, what's that word I'm trying to use? We're basically making us feel like we're outcasts of the very fandom that we fucking helped create. And that, to me, is bullshit. We helped us create this fandom, not you. We're the reason Star Wars is around today, not you. We're the reason why there even is an Episode 7 and Rogue One on its way in Episode 8. Not you. You fucking hipsters freaking barely contributed to this franchise. If any, at all.
They contributed nothing.
And those original trilogy elitists, you're part of that this cult too. How much did you contribute? Those people who stopped watching Star Wars movies after Episode 3. What did you guys do between Episode 3 and The Force Awakens? Did you watch TCW? No. Did you play any of the games that came out after that? No. Did you read most of those novels that came out after that? No. So who the fuck are you to tell us, that we're not the real fans? We're the ones who built this damn community, not you. And for those of you people in the original expanded universe fans who now support the new canon. Why? Why would you? Why? That's even though there's some people like Jeremy who reads the new canon, but who basically turns your back completely on the very thing that helped build this franchise what it is today. What? So having a new movies means more than having quality storytelling? And you have the nerve to call us hipsters because we don't want to fucking watch The Force Awakens, or we consider The Force Awakens a really bad movie, not just from Star Wars standpoint. Fuck that. Fuck that. Those asshats at Lucasfilm think freaking we're gonna fucking bow to them and just accept the new shit that they released. Hell no, we don't have to. We helped build this culture, not you. We built this. And I shouldn't have to feel like an outcast of the very franchise that I helped build. And neither should any of you. We shouldn't have to feel like outcasts. And I don't know any more to say. I'm just going to repeat myself at this point because I feel like I've gotten my point across completely. My closing points are, if you're part of the hipster culture that's helped destroy this franchise and any other cultures that come out there, fuck you. You are like a disease. You're like a fucking plague that goes everywhere.
That poisons culture.
Yes. Star Wars was a respectable franchise before you fuckers got a hold of it. Same thing with Star Trek. And all you stupid SJWs, yeah, some of you are that as well. Pretty sure a good chunk of you. Fuck you.
All an SJW is a political hipster. Anyway.
You got that right. Anyway, I'm done with this rant. Shout out to the Max Panther. You're awesome, man. I hope this is the rant that you got because it was probably the best that I could hope for. May the Force be with you, and see you guys later.